An F5/EF5 tornado is the highest rated tornado possible. These tornadoes are deadly, they're devastating, and thankfully they're quite rare. But they do occur, and in the past 150 years, there have been over 100 tornadoes that are believed to have had F5/EF5 strength. And today we're going to do a top 10 list on what I think are the most significant of these tornadoes. What do I mean by significance? Well, essentially I'm talking about the top 10 most famous tornadoes. Whether that's due to the amount of damage it caused, the amount of fatalities, iconic footage that was captured in the tornado, perhaps the lore behind a specific tornado. What are the tornadoes that have really captured the general public's fascination? That's what we're talking about today. Let's get into it.
Creepy. Tornadoes are mad.
With number 10, we're starting off with the April 27th, 2011 super outbreak, specifically looking at the Hackleburg-Phil Campbell EF5 tornado. The 2011 super outbreak remains the largest and costliest tornado outbreak on record, with over 260 confirmed tornadoes and 324 fatalities.
Damn.
On that day, there were 4 EF5 tornadoes. We haven't had an EF5 tornado since 2013, and there were 4 on this day alone. A truly insane day for weather. The deadliest and most destructive of all these tornadoes was the EF5 that struck the communities of Hackleburg, Phil Campbell, Tanner and Harvest in Alabama, and then Huntland in Tennessee. Overall, 72 lost their lives and over 145 were injured.
Imagine that, just like losing your life due to a natural disaster.
I mean, anything can happen at any time.
Yeah.
You know, it's just.
But how
life.
comes America gets so many tornadoes and the UK don't? That I don't get. Like, is it just where
I think it's due to like climate, where they're based in terms of the world as well. You know, the sea, the air. It might be
because we don't get tornadoes at all in the UK.
We get a very strong wind, but not.
Yeah, that's mad.
I mean, I don't know when the last tornado was.
I don't even know. We don't even know. Yeah, because we don't get tornadoes.
But it is very sad, especially when people lose their lives and injured, and
of course
their homes are wrecked as well.
Wind speeds were estimated to be in the 210 mile per hour range.
Wow.
And the event lasted for over 2.5 hours, traveling 132 miles. 132 miles is a very long distance for a tornado. The EF5 damage mainly occurred in Hackleburg and Phil Campbell. Here's an example of the damage in Phil Campbell. A house completely swept off its foundation. Here's another similar example in Hackleburg. This EF5 makes the list because it's probably the most significant tornado of the 2011 super outbreak. Although you could make an argument for the EF4 that struck Tuscaloosa and Birmingham. Quick honorable mention to the Rainsville, Alabama and Smithville and Philadelphia, Mississippi EF5s from that same day. Moving on to number 9 with the catastrophic tornado that occurred only 2 years later on May 30th, 2013. Yes, we're talking about the Newcastle Moore EF5 tornado that resulted in 24 fatalities and 212 injuries. This tornado began northwest of Newcastle around 3 p.m. local time. It quickly strengthened, and within 5 minutes, the National Weather Service declared a tornado emergency for southern Oklahoma City.
Tornado emergency is now coming. We do have a tornado emergency. This is a tornado emergency. This is higher than a tornado warning.
I've seen a lot of hook echoes in my day, but none quite as well defined as the 2013 Moore EF5. Just take a look at this, and look at that debris ball. It would be terrifying seeing something like this on radar. The tornado would then enter the suburbs of Moore, destroying around 1,200 homes and hundreds of businesses.
So many people lost their lives, and imagine the payouts for, like, obviously these houses, a majority of them must be insured, if not all of them. Imagine like all the money lost, like trying to rebuild and reclaim. Like, that must really damage the economy as a whole. Just like one day like that will crumble a lot of things.
It must be very traumatizing for a human being as well.
True.
Like, I wouldn't be able to sleep properly after or live properly after that.
Just knowing like
it's capable of happening again.
And taking out everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's mad. I've not really thought of it like that.
Yeah.
The scale of the destruction can be clearly seen through the satellite imagery available on Google Earth. The tornado reached peak EF5 strength near eastern Moore, where it swept well-built homes completely off their foundations. This damage was likely caused by winds in the 210 mile per hour range.
210.
It would finally weaken shortly after exiting Moore in the Oklahoma City metropolitan area. This event has become well known through the large amounts of media coverage and footage, the most famous being Mike Morgan from KFOR. When you have a debris ball and hook echo that well defined, you're going to get quite a reaction from any TV meteorologist. And Mike Morgan definitely reacted accordingly.
Tornado emergency for Moore. You folks in Moore, you need to grab whatever it is you need to grab, and you need to go underground. Bottom line, grab your kids, grab your loved ones, grab your friends, or just get out of the way.
Overall, the event lasted 39.
Imagine hearing that on the news. Fucking hell.
Where's the cats? Gotta grab the cats as well.
And run.
Yeah.
That's literally mad.
But where would you go?
Underground, so...
What if you don't have access to underground?
Then you're screwed.
Traveling 30 miles, which is quite a bit shorter than our last entry, the Hackleburg-Phil-Campbell EF5, but it occurred in such a densely populated area. Also worth noting, this is actually the most recent EF5 tornado. We haven't had an EF5 tornado in over 10 years.
Damn.
So the past few years have been great for the channel. We've really grown quite a bit, and that's awesome. I'm very thankful for it. I'm thankful for all of you. But
do you want to write this down?
And
so
that's why I'm thankful for today's sponsor, Aura. I don't know if you ever Googled yourself, but if you have, you might notice, oh wait, holy cow, there's all this information about me on the internet. Like people's account form that what's you and .com/1953. With so much Aura for sponsoring the channel. For number 8, we're going way back to 1953 with the May 11th Waco, Texas F5. This extremely powerful tornado destroyed over 600 homes and 400 commercial buildings, claiming 114 lives. This makes it the 11th deadliest tornado in US history. And this was actually the most recent single tornado-related disaster to have over 100 fatalities until Joplin in 2011. On top of the fatalities, over 600 people were injured. Of course, there is no video of the event, but the photos show just how horrific and destructive this tornado was. The downtown portions of Waco were hit especially hard, including the RT Dennis building, where in that one building alone, 30 would lose their lives. Many of the downtown buildings were constructed poorly, leading to their collapse, burying people inside who were seeking shelter. Thankfully, the Alico building, which was a newer build, did not collapse.
Oh wow, look.
Some remnants from...
You know what? That's really good construction for that not to collapse and being that tall.
I was gonna say,
because taller it is, the
very
easier
tall.
it is to just fall. Like that stood its ground.
The tornado can still be seen to this day with the Dr. Pepper Museum. This brick building partially collapsed, but it was fixed up, and the newer bricks are the lighter color shown here. It is estimated that this tornado had wind speeds close to 261 miles per hour,
Insane.
making it the most powerful we've covered thus far. The Waco F5 is significant for a few reasons. First of all, it's one of the deadliest on record ever, a truly devastating event, but it also represents 1953 as a whole. 1953 was a terrible year for tornadoes. There was the Worcester F4 tornado and the Flint Beecher F5 tornado. All three of these tornadoes eventually led to more advances in civil defense against severe weather. Next up, the 1991 Wichita Andover F5. On April 26, 1991, around 6 p.m., a tornado formed near the city of Hayesville, Kansas. It quickly intensified to an F3 level where it began to leave a path of destruction through the southern suburbs of Wichita. It then crossed the Kansas Turnpike and destroyed the Green Ridge Heights subdivision, creating damage in line with F4 tornado strength. Growing in intensity, the tornado entered the McConnell Air Force Base,
insane.
where it narrowly
It's like a horror
missed
movie.
10 B-1B bombers worth $280 million each. 2 of these bombers were equipped with nuclear warheads. The tornado destroyed several buildings within the Air Force Base before continuing on towards Andover.
What would have happened if the tornado like took those planes and like took the nuclears and like obviously, you know, like things get flung.
You don't want to think about what would happen.
That could have happened.
It's
but
a possibility.
Would the nuke go off? Like if it flung
If it hit
the
something,
nuclear,
it would, wouldn't it?
if it flung it in the air and it like dropped, would it blow, or is there like something that needs to be activated for it to be able to blow? Let us know, guys. You guys are good at this stuff. I'm sure you'll comment below the answer. Thank you.
As it approached Andover, the tornado completely swept well-built houses off their foundations on par with F5 level damage. At the same time, the tornado sirens in the city failed to activate. Thankfully,
shit.
police officers quickly entered the Golden Spur mobile home park, informing the residents to seek shelter. This action saved dozens, maybe hundreds of lives, as just 10 minutes later, the trailer park took a direct hit. In the end, there were 17 fatalities and 22 injuries. The 1991 Andover tornado is definitely one of the more well-known F5s.
That's so sad.
One reason why the tornado has become so iconic is due to it occurring around the same time camcorders became more affordable and abundant in the general population. Most people around that time had video cameras, so for that reason there's a ton of footage of the tornado, including the famous Duke Evans footage and what might be one of the most famous pieces of tornado footage ever, the McConnell Air Force Base footage.
That looks crazy. That's so scary. What the hell?
Absolutely insane. Moving on to number 6, the 1974 Zenia, Ohio F5. So this specific F5 tornado was part of a huge tornado super outbreak that occurred on April 3rd and 4th of 1974. Overall, there were 148 confirmed tornadoes, resulting in 319 fatalities and $5.3 billion worth of damage adjusted for inflation in 2024. Of the almost 150 tornadoes, 7 of them were F5s. Remember what I said earlier, that there hasn't been an EF5 since 2013 and more? Well, this super outbreak had 7.
Oh my God.
Arguably the most significant of the EF5 tornadoes was the one that hit Zenia, Ohio on April 3rd, resulting in 36 fatalities and over 1,100 injuries. This tornado lasted for 39 minutes, traveling about 30 miles. We do surprisingly have footage of this tornado. 16-year-old Zenia resident Bruce Boyd captured the multiple vortices of the tornado using his Super 8 8mm camera. Audio was also recorded using a tape recorder by Mr. Broke Shoulder. Since the video is silent, the recorded audio by Broke Shoulder is often paired together with the video from Boyd.
That is literally something from a horror movie.
Like the McConnell Air Force Base footage from the previous entry, the video captured by Boyd is considered to be one of the most significant videos ever captured of a tornado. Ted Fujita did a large survey of the damage created in Zenia and concluded that the tornado may have had wind speeds over 300 miles per hour. In fact, he originally gave the tornado an F6 plus or minus 1 rating, but then he reversed his rating, giving it an F5, as an F6 is considered inconceivable damage. Essentially, an F5 means like clean slate destruction. I mean, we're talking all that's left is a bare concrete slab. So how can there be an F6 if F5 is already pure, true devastation?
F6, what?
Probably tears the ground apart.
You took the words out of my mouth. That's where the ground, the earth is getting taken, if that's even possible.
It must be.
If it is, got to be so strong to get to do that.
You can't measure it. Xenia would be the only town of the 1974 super outbreak to be visited by President Nixon. When surveying the damage, Nixon stated, "As I look back over the disasters, I saw the earthquake in Anchorage in 1964. I saw the hurricanes, Hurricane Camille in 1969 down in Mississippi, and I saw Hurricane Agnes in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and it is hard to tell the difference among them all. But I would say in terms of destruction, just total devastation, this is the worst I've ever seen." Number 5. The May 27th, 1997 Jarrell Texas F5. This enigmatic tornado formed around 3:40 p.m. just east of Jarrell, Texas, parallel to Interstate 35. The weather system that formed the Jarrell tornado was unique compared to typical tornadoes. For one, the tornado actually traveled the opposite direction of the vast majority of tornadoes, traveling northeast to southwest rather than the typical southwest to northeast.
That's crazy.
At first, the tornado didn't seem like a major threat. It appeared as a tiny rope, barely disturbing hay bales. But within a few minutes, the tornado intensified and grew from a rope to a huge and dark wedge. This was also a multi-vortex tornado. These vortices can be seen in the now infamous Dead Man Walking photo captured by Scott Beckwith. Now at peak strength, the tornado entered the Double Creek Estates subdivision just north of the main part of Jarrell, where it caused some of the most intense damage ever surveyed. The well-built homes within the Double Creek Estates were completely destroyed and cleaned from their foundations. Clearly F5 level damage. Within this subdivision, 27 would lose their lives. Some believe the Jarrell F5
Look at
tornado had
that.
wind speeds over 300 miles per hour,
What the
making
hell?
it one of the strongest, most powerful tornadoes ever recorded. Others believe it wasn't the strong wind speeds that created the strong damage, but the slow-moving nature of the tornado. It essentially just sat on top of the subdivision. The Jarrell F5 tornado has really managed to capture the fascination of tornado enthusiasts. The fact that it started off as like a small little rope tornado that grew into this huge wedge monster. And it also happened just a year after Twister was released in 1966, so that was still on the minds of many. All in all, a unique yet very tragic EF5. The number 4 tornado on this list is the most recent, truly massive and catastrophic tornadic event, and that is the May 22nd, 2011 Joplin, Missouri EF5. We talked about the 2013 Moore F5 earlier, and of course we did mention the 2011 super outbreak, but the EF5 that hit Joplin stands out on its own. This tornado resulted in 158 fatalities, making it the deadliest single tornado event since the Woodward, Oklahoma F5 in 1947. And this occurred in a time where tornadoes were much better understood, and homes and buildings were built stronger. Yet still, the event is one of the deadliest in history. It currently ranks as the 7th deadliest in the US. The tornado destroyed more than 4,000 buildings, making it the costliest on record at
Over 4,000 buildings, and that's when the buildings were stronger. So imagine before, if it was still the old style buildings.
Thing is, what would actually stand against a tornado?
Thing is, it depends how strong the tornado is. Obviously, they're gonna.
Let's just say it's like F5 strong.
I don't know.
Or even like this guy explained
Titanium?
F6.
A titanium house, which is like buried into the core of the earth.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
has
know.
to be buried into the earth.
I have no idea.
But
like,
how do you do something like that?
how costly would that be? Obviously, technology and materials are getting better, and the use of it and
Because
stuff. but
something like brick is not built.
It'll
ground down.
withstand some light tornadoes, but when it starts getting to these serious ones, yeah, it's gone.
at $3.64 billion adjusted for inflation.
Insane.
One aspect that made the Joplin EF5 so deadly was the fact that it was rain-wrapped. People literally couldn't see it coming. There are numerous videos on the internet of people looking straight towards the tornado, but you can't see
it.
anything. It's just a massive black wall. Truly terrifying.
Yeah, that looks really crazy right over there.
It does over there.
They don't even know it's a tornado.
Heavy rain, but that looks like.
To me, the Joplin EF5 tornado is truly a worst-case scenario event. I mean, it formed right before it entered the city and then it dissipated right after it left. The tornado tore a massive path through the southern portion of Joplin. The satellite images from Google Earth show the large amount of destruction throughout the
My
residential
God, look at all
streets
those houses.
and commercial district
Gone.
on Rangeline Road, and the scar can still be seen to this day. Number 3 on the F5 list is the tornado we actually just mentioned, the April 9th, 1947 Woodward, Oklahoma F5. This was a very long-tracked, very intense tornado that completely destroyed Glazier and Higgins in Texas, and then heavily destroyed Woodward, Oklahoma. The tornado path was at least 98 miles and could have been as long as 200 miles. However, experts are unsure if the path is just the result of one tornado or a series of tornadoes. 17 died in Glazier, 51 died in Higgins, and 107 died in Woodward. Overall, the event claimed 185 lives and injured 1,000, making it the 6th deadliest in U.S. history. The tornado was believed to have been over 2 miles wide. The destruction in Woodward, Oklahoma was catastrophic. Over 100 blocks of the city were pulverized. There's also a bit of lore behind the Woodward tornado. The deaths of 3 young girls were never claimed, so their origin is still unknown. They all received proper burials thanks to the generosity of a local resident named Wayne Lawson.
Oh, that's sad.
Another victim, Joan Gay Croft, went missing after the event. According to eyewitnesses, she had an injured leg and was receiving care at a local hospital. While she was waiting with others in the hospital basement, 3 men in military uniforms took her away, claiming that they were taking her to Oklahoma City, and what happened to her after that still remains a mystery to this day. I did a video about this in case you were interested. But now it's time to move on to number 2, the runner-up. Definitely the most well-known and infamous modern tornado event, and that is the May 3rd, 1999 Bridge Creek Moore F5. To this day, this is believed to be the most powerful tornado ever recorded, with estimated wind speeds between 300 and 320 miles per hour. Hurricanes are massive, obviously, but in terms of power per square meter, this may be the most powerful weather event in recorded history. Truly a monster. The tornado initially touched down around 6:20 p.m. near the small town of Amber, Oklahoma. Initially, it was an F2, but the tornado grew in strength quite quickly as it traveled through the countryside. By the time it actually reached Bridge Creek, this tornado was already a massive wedge F5.
What I will say, obviously, this natural disaster is so unfortunate and it's, you know, it's bad no matter how you look at it. But the one thing I guess we're blessed at in a way is that what he said in terms of these tornadoes, they kind of come, do a path, and then go. Imagine like they just kept going. Like, imagine they didn't really end and it just kept going. Like, where would you go from there? Do you know what I mean? Obviously, it's messed up. It's still destroying everything. It's killing people. It's so sad. But imagine it just never ended and it kind of, that path just kept going until it's in the sea or something rather than it just evaporating.
Thing is, if it did keep going, we wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, how would you put an end to that?
You can't stop it.
Yeah.
You can't stop a tornado.
Yeah.
No man-made machine.
Like, that's the
can stop
lucky
it.
side of it, is that it kind of just
It
stops.
does end eventually.
But it's so sad.
But the unfortunate part is that it does happen. You can't guarantee when it can happen. Or where, or what direction it's going to go.
And if you're in its way, you're done.
Yeah. And it, like you said, it's very unfortunate.
Here's some of the damage it caused in Bridge Creek.
Oh my God.
Absolutely devastating. Of course, the tornado only had just begun. A very well-defined hook echo had just formed on radar and it was heading straight towards Moore and southern Oklahoma City. The severity of the situation was incredibly obvious. A huge, confirmed tornado was heading straight towards a highly populated area. Mike Morgan and company at KFOR knew the serious nature of the situation, and you can hear it in their voices during the live broadcast.
Get below ground, get in the interior closet or bathroom, get in the bathtub. We plead with you. There it is, crossing Interstate 35. There is a tremendous amount of debris in the air. We pray and plead with you, please get down now.
Also, for the first time ever, a tornado emergency was issued by the National Weather Service. Incredible coverage was also captured by Gary England and his team over at KWTV. The tornado entered the suburb of Moore, creating a wide path of destruction. It headed north but then shifted east as it tore through Del City and then finally left the suburbs of the greater Oklahoma City metro area. All in all, the tornado lasted 1 hour and 25 minutes. It traveled 38 miles, destroying 8,000 homes, 1,000 apartments, and 260 businesses. The scar could be seen for quite a while through historic satellite imagery. Here it is in 1999, and you can still kind of see it as we go through the years. And to this day, you can still find abandoned driveways that used to lead to homes that were destroyed in the tornado.
What's number one? If that's number two...
The tornado is significant because it really was a worst case scenario, kind of like Joplin from earlier. Many had feared that something like this would happen towards Oklahoma City, and on May 3rd, 1999, it did. The footage from KFOR, especially the scene with the horizontal vortices where Mike Morgan is left speechless, is still one of the most insane and heartbreaking pieces of tornado footage in existence.
You possibly can. That's an F. Look at the horizontal vortex. That is an F4 to an F5. Just go get safe. Oh my gosh.
89, South 89.
Look at all the electric fuses just blowing up.
Finally, we have reached number 1, the worst and potentially most powerful tornado ever documented, the 1925 Tri-State tornado. This tornado holds many records. First off, it lasted 7 hours.
Oh
7
my
hours,
God.
and it traveled over 219 miles from Missouri to Indiana, making it the longest tracked tornado ever documented. And it's also the deadliest in U.S. history, with 695 fatalities and over 2,000 injuries.
That's
Some of the hardest hit
insane.
communities were Murfreesboro, Illinois, where 200 died, DeSoto, Illinois, where 60 died, West Frankfort, Illinois, where 102 died, Griffin, Indiana, where 44 died, and Princeton, Indiana, where 38 died. The tornado was likely rain-wrapped. Witnesses claimed they couldn't see the actual funnel. To them, it just appeared as a dark cloud on the ground, destroying everything in its path. Very similar to Joplin and the Woodward tornado that we talked about.
When a tornado's rain-wrapped, it's like it's disguised. It's a cloak. You can't, like an invisible cloak in Harry Potter. You can't even see it.
Earlier. There were other witnesses who say they saw 2 funnels circulating around each other, confirming that it did indeed have multiple vortices. Of course, it's always difficult to confirm a tornado Fujita rating prior to the 1970s, but there were reports of homes being wiped off of their foundations, and even railroad tracks being torn up from the ground. With these reports, experts like Thomas Grazoulis and Ted Fujita himself have retroactively given this tornado F5 status. This event almost has a mythical aspect to it. It was almost 100 years ago, so we just don't know what happened. Like, we don't know if it was a single tornado or a series of tornadoes. We don't know if it was a truly large and powerful F5 or if all the buildings in its path were just poorly built. We just don't know anything about it.
It's old
there
as
are
well.
photos, and of course we know about the mass casualties, but no one really knows for sure what happened. Like I said earlier in the video, we have not had an EF5 tornado for over 10 years, and this is a good thing, and I hope this streak continues for a long time. But we are going into tornado season, so be sure to be weather aware, know your tornado safety procedures, and with that said, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.
Tornadoes in the US, man, that's one thing like that I'm grateful for that's not in, you know, the UK is that tornado life.
We don't really have extreme weather.
We don't get extreme weather. It's cold, but it's not extreme weather.
Yeah, we don't have, you know,
like
high,
snowstorms,
deep snows. We don't have, well, not part of, you know, London area anyway.
Yeah, no, we don't. Yeah.
We don't really have floodings. I think the one-off we do.
One-off, and our flood system's so good that
I think it just all depends on the economy. It's something about, because we're in the middle of the sea as well, even though we are surrounded by, you know, Europe. But if you look at America on the world map, they are literally just in the middle, just surrounded by sea.
Yeah, so the geography of where we're based, that's true. And I think that plays a big part. Like you said, being near the sea probably doesn't help. But yeah, guys, thank you for recommending that video. Keep sending us videos to react to. We are reacting to a video a day. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. For now, peace out.
Bye.